Stop! Don't file I-765. Before watching this, common mistakes cost thousands. Let me ask you something very important right now. Do you know that thousands of people file the I-765 every single month and get denied? Not because they don't qualify, not because they did something wrong with their status, but because of simple, avoidable mistakes that cost them months of waiting and hundreds, sometimes thousands, of dollars. Mistakes that nobody warned them about before they clicked that submit button. And today, I am going to make sure you are not one of those people. Before we go any further, I need you to do something for me. Look down at that subscribe button. Yes, right now. If you are watching this video, it means you are serious about your immigration journey, and I promise you, this channel will protect that journey. We post updates that your immigration attorney might not even know about yet. Hit subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss a single update that could change your life. This is US Visa Info, your #1 source for the latest and most accurate immigration updates. Today we are talking about the I-765, which is the application for employment authorization. This is one of the most commonly filed immigration forms in the United States. And right now, in 2025, there are new rules, new scrutiny levels, and new processing realities that you absolutely must understand before you file. If you are currently waiting to file, if you are about to renew, or if someone in your family needs work authorization, do not move a single inch until you finish this video. The consequences of getting this wrong include delays of 6 months or more, out-of-pocket losses of over $1,000, and in some cases, gaps in work authorization that could cost you your job. Stay right here. This is going to be one of the most important videos you watch this year. Let's start by talking about what is changing and when it takes effect. USCIS has been rolling out significant processing and policy updates to the I-765 category throughout 2025. Starting in early 2025, USCIS began flagging certain I-765 applications for additional review based on eligibility category codes. Effective with the most recent policy update, applications submitted under certain categories, especially those tied to pending adjustment of status cases, are now subject to a longer verification window. This is extremely time-sensitive. If you are someone who filed an I-485 and you are waiting on your I-765 as a derivative benefit, the timeline you were expecting may no longer be accurate. USCIS is now taking anywhere from 4 to 7 months to process certain categories, compared to the previous 90-day benchmark that many people were planning around. Mark your calendar right now and do not base your job plans on the old timeline. Things have changed. Beyond processing times, USCIS has also updated its guidance on what counts as sufficient evidence of eligibility. The old rule was that a pending I-485 receipt notice was often enough to support your I-765 filing. But now, officers are looking for more. They want to see cleaner documentation, stronger ties to your underlying basis for filing, and consistent information across all of your USCIS records. If anything looks mismatched, your case gets flagged, and flagged cases go to the back of a very long line. Now let's talk about why this matters and who this affects. Here is what you need to understand. The I-765 is not just a form. It is the document that determines whether you can legally work in the United States. If your Employment Authorization Document, or EAD, expires and your renewal is delayed, you are in a very serious situation. You cannot legally work. Your employer may be forced to let you go. You could lose your health insurance. You could fall behind on bills. The ripple effect of one filing mistake is enormous. And I am not saying this to scare you. I am saying this because I want you to walk away from this video ready to do this right the very first time. Whether you are an asylum seeker, a pending green card applicant, a spouse on a dependent visa, an F1 student using optional practical training, or someone on TPS or DACA, this video applies to you. Each of these categories has its own rules, its own timelines, and its own common mistakes. If you fall into any of these groups, pay close attention to every single thing I say for the rest of this video. If you are someone who files even a few weeks late, you could face a gap in your work authorization. A gap means your current EAD has expired and your new one has not arrived yet. During that gap, you cannot work. Period. Employers who knowingly allow you to work during that gap face federal fines. So this is not just your problem, it is your employer's problem too. And that puts enormous pressure on your job situation in a way that most people are not prepared for. Let's get into the specific details, numbers, and requirements you need to know. The filing fee for the I-765 right now is $520 if you are filing on paper. However, if you file online through the My USCIS portal, the fee is currently $470. That is a $50 difference, and there is absolutely no reason to pay more unless you have a specific reason to file by mail. Now, some categories are exempt from the fee entirely. Asylum applicants filing for the first time under Category C8 do not pay a filing fee. DACA recipients renewing under Category C33 also have specific fee rules that you need to verify at the time of filing because fees have changed before and they can change again. Never assume the fee is the same as last time. Always check the USCIS website before you submit your payment. Here is a number that will surprise a lot of people. According to recent USCIS data, over 30% of rejected I-765 applications are rejected not because of eligibility problems, but because of administrative errors. Missing signatures, wrong fee amounts, incorrect category codes, outdated forms, missing supporting documents. 30%. That means nearly 1 in 3 people who get rejected could have been approved if they had just been more careful. That is a devastating statistic. And today, I am going to make sure you are not in that 30%. Quick question, are you subscribed yet? Because missing updates like this could literally cost you your green card. We are talking about changes that come out fast, sometimes with only a few weeks of notice, and you need to be the first to know. Hit that subscribe button right now and join the people who are always one step ahead. Let me walk you through what triggers a flag on your application and what enhanced scrutiny actually looks like. USCIS has access to far more information about you than most people realize. Through data sharing agreements between USCIS, CBP, the IRS, the Social Security Administration, and the Department of Homeland Security, officers reviewing your I-765 can see a very detailed picture of your time in the United States. They will review your entry records and whether you have maintained your status continuously. They will check whether your Social Security records match your immigration history. They have access to any prior immigration applications, approvals, denials, and requests for evidence. If you have ever overstayed a visa, even briefly, that is visible. If you have ever worked without authorization, even for a short time, that can be visible too. Officers will review the dates on your supporting documents very carefully. If your I-94 shows a specific date and your application mentions a different date, that inconsistency is a red flag. You will be asked, through a request for evidence, to explain the discrepancy. RFEs slow your case down significantly. A simple RFE can add 3 to 6 months to your processing time and require you to gather additional documents under deadline pressure. The best way to avoid an RFE is to submit a complete, consistent, and accurate application the first time. Pay close attention to this part. Officers are trained to notice when something does not line up. Do not give them a reason to look closer. If your case is flagged for additional review, it may go through a process called FDNS, which stands for Fraud Detection and National Security. This is a division within USCIS that specifically investigates applications they believe might contain false information or eligibility issues. An FDNS review means your case will take longer, it may include interviews or additional document requests, and the officer reviewing it will be looking at your entire immigration history with a very critical eye. You do not want your I-765 anywhere near an FDNS review. File clean, file complete, file honest. Now let's talk about the documents you need to prepare. This is the part where most people make mistakes, so I want to be very specific. Bring copies of your current and expired EADs. Yes, even the expired ones. They show continuity and history. Keep your I-94 record printed from the CBP website dated within the last 30 days before you file. Maintain a copy of your underlying petition or application, whether that is your I-485 receipt, your I-589, your I-20 for OPT, or whatever the basis for your eligibility category is. Bring government-issued photo identification. Bring 2 passport-style photos that meet USCIS specifications exactly, which means 2 by 2 inches, white or off-white background, taken within the last 30 days. Bring proof of your current address that matches the address on your application. And if you have changed your name for any reason, bring documentation of that name change. Here is what a lot of people forget. If you are filing a renewal, you need to file up to 180 days before your current EAD expires. That is 6 months in advance. I know it feels early. I know it feels like you are jumping ahead. But USCIS processing times are not guaranteed, and filing early is the only way to protect yourself from a gap. If you file at the 180-day mark and USCIS still takes 6 months to process it, you have arrived at exactly the right time. If you file at the 90-day mark and processing takes 6 months, you will have a 3-month gap. Do not let that happen to you. Before we continue, let me tell you something important. Last year, thousands of people missed critical EAD renewal windows because they were not getting updates fast enough. They relied on word of mouth and found out too late. That is exactly why channels like ours exist. We track every USCIS update, every processing time change, every policy shift, so you do not have to wonder. Subscribe right now, turn on notifications, and let us be your early warning system. Let's talk about exceptions and special cases, because not everyone's situation is the same. If you are an F1 student applying for OPT, your I-765 must be filed no more than 90 days before your program end date and no later than 60 days after. That window is very specific, and if you miss it, there is no exception. The school's designated school official, or DSO, must recommend your OPT in SEVIS before you can even file. Make sure your DSO has done this before you submit anything to USCIS. If there is a delay on their end, it becomes a delay on your end. If you are a conditional permanent resident whose I-751 is pending, you are eligible to file the I-765 based on the pending petition. But you need to have your I-751 receipt notice ready as supporting evidence. A lot of conditional residents do not realize they can work based on that receipt, and they stop working unnecessarily during a long processing window. For those in medical situations or dealing with family emergencies that caused a delay in filing, USCIS does have some provisions, but they are not automatic or guaranteed. If you missed a deadline because of a documented medical emergency or a situation outside your control, you should consult with an immigration attorney before filing to understand how to address this in your application. Never just file and hope for the best without addressing a known issue. If you are on TPS and your designation period has been extended, your EAD may have been automatically extended by a Federal Register notice. Pay close attention to this because many TPS holders have gone to the USCIS website, saw that their EAD was expiring, panicked, and filed a renewal when they did not need to yet. Duplicate filings create confusion and can actually slow things down. Check the Federal Register notices for your country's TPS designation before you file anything. If you are getting value from this video, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications right now. We post daily updates that could save you thousands of dollars in legal fees. This is the kind of information you need to have before you sit down with anyone, including an attorney, so you know what questions to ask. Let's go through the action steps you need to take right now. First, mark your calendar for 180 days before your current EAD expires. That is your target filing date. Set a reminder today, not tomorrow. The most common mistake people make is saying they will do it later and then forgetting. Second, gather these documents now, not the night before you file. Print your I-94, take your passport photos, Pull out your existing EAD, locate your underlying petition receipt, and put everything in one folder. Third, review your application very carefully before you submit it. Check that every date matches across every document. Check that your address is current and consistent. Check that your category code is correct. This is not the place to rush. Fourth, if you have any complications in your history, any overstays, any gaps in status, any prior denials, consult with a licensed immigration attorney before you file. A 1-hour consultation that costs you a couple $100 is much less painful than an RFE or a denial that sets you back 6 months. Never submit an application and then change your address without filing an AR-11 to update USCIS. If your EAD approval notice or your RFE goes to the wrong address, you may never know, and USCIS will not consider that their problem. Do not use an outdated form. USCIS updates forms regularly. An I-765 from last year may literally not be accepted this year. Always download the form directly from the USCIS website on the day you plan to fill it out. Now let's go through the most common mistakes I see people make, and I want you to really listen to this section. Mistake number 1 is using the wrong eligibility category code. There are dozens of category codes for the I-765, and choosing the wrong one will get your application rejected or denied. If you are filing based on a pending I-485, your code is C9. If you are an F1 student filing for pre-completion OPT, your code is C3A. Post-completion OPT is C3B. Cap-Gap is C3C. These are not interchangeable. If you do not know your code, look it up on the USCIS website or ask a professional before you file. Mistake number 2 is not signing the application. I know this sounds unbelievable, but missing or incorrect signatures account for a huge percentage of rejections. If you are filing on paper, make sure you sign in the correct box with a wet ink signature. If you are filing online, make sure you complete the electronic signature step fully before submitting. An unsigned application is returned to you. Then you have to refile. Then you start the waiting period all over again. Mistake number 3 is submitting incorrect or expired supporting documents. Your passport photos must be recent. Your I-94 must be recent. Documents that are outdated tell the officer that you were not careful, and that invites closer scrutiny. Mistake number 4 is not keeping a copy of everything you submitted. If USCIS loses your application, if there is a discrepancy, if you get an RFE, you need to know exactly what you sent them and when. Scan everything. Store it somewhere safe. This is not optional. Mistake number 5 is failing to follow up on your case status. File your application and then set a reminder to check your case status every 2 weeks on the USCIS website. If your case is outside normal processing times, you may be eligible to submit a service request or contact the USCIS Contact Center. People who monitor their cases catch problems earlier and can respond faster when something goes wrong. Mistake number 6, and this one is big, is filing too late and then panicking. I have seen people realize their EAD is expiring in 3 weeks and they rush to file. They make mistakes because they are stressed, they forget documents, they submit the wrong fee, and then they end up with a gap in authorization anyway. File early, file carefully. That is the entire formula. Join our community of over 15,000 immigrants who stay informed every single day. Subscribe right now and drop a comment below telling us where you are watching from. We want to hear from you. Your questions and your experiences help us make better content that helps even more people just like you. Let's talk about what you can expect in terms of timeline and what to do while you wait. Right now, in 2025, USCIS processing times for the I-765 vary widely depending on your category and how you filed. If you filed online and your case is straightforward, some applicants are seeing approvals in as little as 4 to 6 weeks. However, many categories, especially those tied to pending adjustment of status cases, are running 5 to 7 months. This is the reality right now. Plan around the longer estimate, not the shorter one. The best case scenario is that you filed early, your application was complete, there were no issues, and you receive your new EAD before your old one expires. That is the goal. That is what we are planning for when we say file 180 days in advance. The worst-case scenario is an RFE, a delay, and a gap in work authorization. To protect yourself in the worst case, make sure your employer knows you are in a renewal process. Many employers will give a grace period when they know an EAD renewal is pending. Keep a copy of your pending receipt notice accessible because that receipt notice is proof that you have filed and that you are in process. If you are approaching your EAD expiration and your renewal has not arrived, call the USCIS contact center and request an expedite or a service request. Expedites are not guaranteed, but documented financial harm, like losing your job, is a recognized basis for requesting one. Have documentation ready if you go that route. Now let's look at what is coming next and why you need to stay ahead of it. The immigration landscape in 2025 is moving fast. USCIS has signaled additional policy updates related to how certain categories of EAD applicants are verified. There are ongoing discussions about changes to auto-extension rules, which currently allow certain applicants to continue working beyond their EAD expiration date while their renewal is pending. If those auto-extension rules change, the stakes of filing late will go up dramatically. That is a warning you need to take seriously right now. There are also broader trends related to increased data verification between federal agencies that are going to affect how USCIS reviews applications going forward. The more data they have access to, the more important it is that everything you submit is accurate and consistent with your full history. One mismatch in a world of data sharing can trigger a review that delays your case by months. In our next video, we are going to talk specifically about what happens when your I-765 is denied and what your options are. That is a video you definitely need to watch, especially if you are in a complicated immigration situation. Make sure you are subscribed so you get notified the moment that video goes live. Here is the wrap-up, and I want to make sure these 3 things stay with you. Number 1. File your I-765 renewal 180 days before your current EAD expires. This is not a suggestion. It is the only way to protect yourself from a gap in work authorization given current processing times. Number 2. Get every detail right before you submit. Check your category code. Double-check your documents. Make sure your dates are consistent across everything and do not forget to sign. 30% of rejections are administrative. You can avoid every single one of them. Number 3, monitor your case after you file. Do not submit and forget. Check your status regularly, make sure your address is current with USCIS, and respond immediately to any communication you receive from them. The deadline to act is not some far-off date. If your EAD is expiring within the next 6 months, that deadline is right now. Do not wait another day. Do not finish this video and say you will think about it. Take action today. Subscribe if you have not already. Share this video with any immigrant in your life who needs to know this information. It could save them months of stress and thousands of dollars. You sharing this video is one of the most helpful things you can do for someone you care about. Stay informed, stay compliant, and remember, your dream is possible if you follow the rules. This is US Visa Info, keeping you updated every single day.